year 2000. That one that's right above your head in the white shirt, skinny pasta. That was my first headshot.
Welcome.
Hey, what's going on?
I thought we were rolling into this clip, but that's okay. Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm glad you made it.
I'm glad I'm home safe. Everybody was like, hey, if everybody knows I was on the road, want to know when I got home safe. Hunter, hi, I'm home safe. And we're here in the studio, and it's Pasta Jardula rocking with the accidental activist, Chanda Masta, who I always say is not so accidental that I got to meet her, because we get to do this amazing show every week and learn, educate, scramble, try to find solutions, try to recognize what is actually going on in America when it comes to addiction and how people are just dying on a regular basis, which kind of makes you think, like, you know, I know we're all involved this weekend with the Medicare for All March because we're strong advocates for it and stuff like that. But this is also the nuance to what type of Medicare for all do we want, Chanda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who, you know, what services are direly needed in this country is definitely a talking point that we need to be talking about. I think today's show really covers a lot of that. We're going to take a look at, because we always try to explain the origins of the war on drugs, right? And how it's still affecting us and how it's affected us for so long. And today we're going to get a good glimpse at the oligarchs and the power that they've had for so long, and how long it goes back and how far it goes back is shocking in the beginning of the show. And then I want to get into the biologics of marijuana and how it works. I went to school for it, and so I love sharing what I learned. And then we're going to just talk about weed at the end. So.
I didn't know if we were going to do this show like Cypress Hilly, you know, like get the blunt, get the joints, let's go. Doom, doom, doom. You know, I wanted some music in the background. But it is kind of funny because we are talking about a little bit about, Medicare for all, right? And a lot of people think with Medicare for all, marijuana is a medicine, certainly the type of medicine I like. So maybe it should be included for Medicare for all. But I have a feeling that would be something like the states would decide to do. It wouldn't be a national thing because we still have this incredible stigma about marijuana. I mean, they're still doing it, Chanda. They're still acting like the only people who smoke weed are just low lives and people who don't, they're sinners.
Reefers.
And it's going to lead, it's a gateway drug. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Right.
And the stigma about marijuana is so bad, yet it's what Joe Rogan called an alien plant. It was given to us. It does so much. We can talk about what it's going to do to the environment, which is a lot of the hidden reasons behind why there's such a suppression and a demonizing of marijuana. And you know the whole story behind reefer madness and stuff, what you got behind you. So let's just dive into this. This is going to be a great show, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Rockfin. If you haven't signed up for Roar Media, get your ass over there. They got a Rockfin. Chanda, Oz with the overalls, Amber, who always rocks it. This is Fam. So get on it, and I give you the microphone, Chanda.
Thanks. So this first clip, you and I were talking about reefer madness, and, you know, just to give you a quick rundown of my relationship with marijuana, I grew up, you know, watching my parents dabble in it. I don't say my mom, but so much my dad. But, you know, he just explained to us, hey, the law says it's wrong, but I think it's a plant, and I don't think it's wrong. So we always had a little herb growing in the garden when I was really young. So by the time I was 12, I got busted with an ounce of weed. So, oh my God, that was a bad thing in the 80s.
At 12 years old?
12 years old. I was in 6th grade. I was still in the same class all day, that type of thing. Oh, I was the bad girl of town.
A zone? Wow. What kind of weed was it? Do you remember? Was it just at that time? It was just
crap. It was total shake crap that we got
swag.
from somebody's
Remember
parents.
that word,
Right. Yeah. It was
swag?
clippings. It was clippings is
Ugh.
what it was. I mean, there was no THC in it at all, but I got expelled and I had to do all of this community service. And, I lost my place on the squad type of thing. And, I got punished and I had to work really hard to get my reputation back going into high school. Cause that happened in middle school. So in high school, I managed to get my reputation back, but I always kind of had that marijuana stigma over me. So years later, fast forward, and I'm managing one of the very first 502 marijuana stores in Washington State. And, I say to my classmates and my teachers at reunion, you said I was on a path to nowhere, but I actually was on a career path the whole time. So that was always my favorite
right?
burn. And so in my marijuana shop, we used to play Reefer Madness because it was a good talking point for customers when they come in to understand just why marijuana has been regulated as hard as it has and the places where we still need to be fighting for it. People think that just because it's legal in some states, like, oh, we're winning. But what's happening is the states that it's legal in, it's being corporatized in. So
can I tell you how awesome that is? That is amazing, Chanda. The fact that you're playing that, the nuance. So people are coming in just, on the surface level. They want to get weed, whatever, and stuff like that. But you can explain, you can go down the rabbit holes and explain, the pushback against marijuana and why you had to buy it that way and why it's, it's criminalized in some states and what they're doing. So I think that's amazing. And yeah, I just can't wait to watch some of these clips. Because I remember this movie here, and when I was watching it, I was laughing hysterically. I think I watched it at 12 years old, and I wasn't even really smoking weed then. And I thought it was just like, okay, because I had the same thing. My parents, right? They had weed. You know what I'm saying? I used to know, oh, they got a pipe. I can smell that. That smells like really
good.
They'd hide
it from you, but you're right.
Yeah. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's dive in.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance, innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell. In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard, rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe or watch case.
If you want a good smoke, try one of these.
You will meet Bill, who once took pride in his strong will as he takes the first step toward enslavement.
Of course, if you're afraid.
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide, and the ultimate end of the marijuana addict. Hopeless insanity. See this important film now, before it is too late.
The name that comes to my mind right away, Anslinger, right? Ooh.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Anslinger. The next two clips I brought, we're really going to get into Anslinger, Hearst, all of the big chemical cartels that we're still fighting to this day, be it Petro or, chemical or pharma. I mean, they're all there. All of them are all the evil oligarchs who've been in control for so many years, kicked this off so long ago.
And they understood, I think, the power and what marijuana could do. You know what I'm saying? And at this point, too, as well, this was the early 1900s, correct?
Yes, this is 20s probably really is when it starts to.
Cool. I'll hold my questions to the end because I have some questions about, there's a lot of people who say that, marijuana was also made illegal because a lot of slave owners didn't want their slaves smoking it out in the field and stuff because they had access to it, whatnot. And
that was actually a propaganda campaign to make it look like only blacks were the ones partaking in it.
Yeah. Okay. See, I'm glad I asked that question.
So, but I'm going to cover that. I brought some.
See, I'm getting
info on
ahead
that,
of myself today because I didn't get the marijuana they were smoking on that thing. Play it faster, Chanda. Faster.
I know. I love that over the top campy shit.
What shit are you smoking, dude?
Right. I'm doing Alien Kush, I think is what I was smoking.
What was the response when people would see that clip when they came into your shop?
Oh, people would laugh. A lot of people would be like, and one of my best experiences working in the weed store was the first time seniors that would come in. And, I live in a retirement community. So, they're 65, 70. They hear it's going to help their glaucoma. Some of them, I've had people that were diagnosed with cancer within 24 hours. They're standing in front of me with their lives devastated, bawling, saying, I've read CBDs can help me. I don't know anything about it. Can you help me? And, it's rewarding, but it's heartbreaking too, because you see the harm that Big Pharma is doing to these people, and you're not allowed to give medical advice because you're not a doctor, even though I've gone to college for this. I had to take a class and I had to get certified and do all that. But you want to suggest things that will help. And so you're doing your best to walk that legal line that they're creating now as a dispensary.
It's funny. They would throw people out of the Florida pipe stores if you said the word bong.
Right. You couldn't say that type of stuff. Now you can in our stores. We were just joking about it at our local weed store. Like, oh, I'm going to get ripped. I'm like, oh, you can't say that,
Oh, yeah.
But you can now. Yeah, the laws, we're going to get into the laws. The laws are so insane here in Washington State.
I always ask for grass. But I know that's a hippie term. I know everybody's using flower, but I always say, got any grass, man?
Grass, man. Yeah, I mean, the gamut of people that I met were amazing. The little first time buyers. How do I inhale? I remember teaching a little old lady how to inhale for the first time, to the total stoner kids. You get everybody. The stigma needs to be lifted, and it is slowly lifting. And so all age groups now that are legal are participating. I mean, that's what I saw.
Can I send some hi really quick before we do the next clip? I just want to say hi to Riley Rage, Anthony Scannell, William M, Roar Media in the house, of course, and Tom. I don't know if that's the Tom from, was it MySpace? Maybe Tom came on over.
Hey, Tom, we've been missing you. Sorry we treated you so bad.
I know, right? Everybody's talking about Tom.
Right.
And let's take a look over. This is just ridiculous. Are you guys having issues with YouTube yourself too as well? Because it's like, damn.
No,
there it is.
I don't think that we have, but let's shout out Roar Media. We got Lucky Burrito. Hey guys, Thank you so much for your
Steve
work
Cutler
today.
live.
Steve Cutler. I know you guys they sent us a special treat, and I can't wait till the end of the show to bring it to you. Thank you, Steve, so much.
Don't smoke it without me.
I know, don't smoke it without you. Gamer, what's up, Gamer? PB
What's up, game?
NY. Barbara, good to see you, Barbara. I hope to see you out on the March. Barbara.
Keith Hayes over there too.
Keith, hey Keith. Anthony.
Nice. Guys, like button, share it, hit it all. Help us out. To Hell and Back, episode 8, medical marijuana. We're breaking it down.
Okay. So now we're going to get into these evil, I call them shit bags. I even have a file on my computer where I put all the shit bags. So these guys are shit bags, and we'll talk about it after the clip.
Got it.
A new movement in America was born. It was called Chemergy, and it listed the very Henry Ford among its founders. Instead of abandoning agriculture to itself and directing all the investments toward the industry, this movement sought to transform and harness the agricultural output in order to integrate it into industrial production. The idea was to use agricultural products, mainly cannabis, to provide the industry with all the raw materials it needed. But there was a major handicap in making the production of cannabis truly competitive. The separation of the fiber from the stalk still needed to be done by hand, and this slowed down the production while greatly increasing the cost. But the invention of a new machine, the decorticator, seemed to remove the last barrier for cannabis, finally promising unlimited success. At that time, the magazine Popular Mechanics published a landmark article entitled New Billion-Dollar Crop, in which it envisioned a tremendous revival of cannabis plantations all around the world. But not everyone seemed to be happy with the future success of this miracle plant. At that time, the magnate of pink journalism, William Randolph Hearst, had bought millions of acres of timber forests, which he intended to use to make paper for his ever more popular tabloid publications. With the return of hemp paper, far less expensive than tree paper, his empire was doomed to collapse in a short period of time. Another industry giant who was directly threatened by the return of cannabis was Lamont DuPont, the owner of the petrochemical company that had just bought the patents to create dozens of synthetic products from oil. Nylon stockings, brushes, men's clothing, and even tires for your car. And then Orlon, Dacron, synthetic sponges, cellophane, and a full range of products that would have been easily displaced on the market by their competitors made with hemp. Apart from the risk of losing millions of dollars, Hearst and DuPont had something else in common. They were both funded by one of the most powerful bankers of the time, Andrew Mellon. Andrew Mellon was also the owner of Gulf Oil, one of the so-called Seven Sisters. At that time, oil companies were expanding at great speed, but were likely to see their investments vanish by the mass production of cannabis, which offered a much cleaner and more economical fuel. Nor should we forget the young pharmaceutical industry, which was financed by two other powerful bankers, John Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. These people were conducting an all-out campaign to eliminate the accepted natural herbal treatments, including cannabis, from the pharmacopoeia, while trying to replace them with drugs created in the laboratory. Furthermore, Rockefeller was also the owner of Standard Oil, which had already started to invade America with its refineries and its service stations. Thus was born this natural alliance between the synthetic textile industry, the oil industry, the producers of plastics and its derivatives, and the pharmaceutical.
Never leave out big pharma, because they were little pharma back then.
You know, I've seen this before, and I saw this a long time ago. Right. And this is what it's all about. The thing about the one part they missed when they were talking about the hemp paper, that it's cheaper. It's also better for the environment.
Oh, yeah. They went on for like 3 or 4 minutes about all the things that you can produce with hemp. Every fucking thing. Every goddamn thing. Everything. We don't need any of those chemical-based bullshits. We can literally make everything out of hemp.
And leave the trees to produce CO2, oxygen, or whatever it's producing. You know, and live a happy life. I think we're like at 1/3 of the forest has been cut down now in the world, right? I think something like that. I mean,
those
according
big
to some
trees,
people,
when they cut down those big trees, when Hearst, because he owns the media empire back then with his print, right? So he owns all the fucking trees and all the papers. So he's making all the money. That's why he wanted hemp dead. It wasn't even about marijuana in the THC form of getting high. That was the threat to the oligarchs. It was hemp in its raw form that you can make a fucking rope out of. That was the problem.
James Evans says, big piece of crappa.
All of them.
Same people too, right? Same
normal, regular suspects,
running shit.
Right?
Wow.
Usual
Will it ever stop? Why don't we jump on it now though today? Like I said this to you, I was like, why don't we at least just go to all toilet paper products and all sodas got to use hemp, right? We would stop that.
Yeah. We're trying that. There is movements across the country that have implemented some of that, especially here in Washington State. We got a good lobby for that type of shit. And we've really been lobbying hard to replace. Where I live is where all the old growths come from, the timber. That's what we were. But now that the timbers, the lands are owned by the states, the few old growth that are left, they're mining these forests basically, they're rotating them. But we want to see hemp come back because all the mill jobs are gone. And so there's multiple Aberdeen. You ever hear about Aberdeen where Kurt Cobain came from? We have these sister cities, Shelton. They were all big lumber and now they're just devastated. And so we've been pushing to try to bring hemp production back to this area. It would grow good here. And yet we're still coming into this shit. I'm not even kidding. We get pushback from, I swear to God, the elected officials that are still in the pockets of these assholes.
Yeah, I mean, and how did they even fucking get away with it? You know what I'm saying?
And it's the Democrats too. Let me tell you, we're going to get into that.
I
have came up against the fucking Democrats.
Well, the Republicans still have their stupid fucking stigma through middle America too, as well. I mean, it's both sides of the aisle. I mean, this is ridiculous right now. They could have ended this shit a long time ago. I believe in Reefer Madness. I think it was. No, it wasn't Reefer Madness. It was it this movie here that you're playing? And maybe I'm jumping the gun. James LaGuardia from New York, the mayor.
Yeah, he takes them on. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
LaGuardia
he took
takes
them on.
But I don't think he was that victorious. And then that's when
He
we get
wasn't.
into regulation.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think
I just want to throw a shout out to a good Italian governor. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to bring that up to you. I saw that and I was like,
James
LaGuardia
LaGuardia.
fought
So,
back. Yep.
do we have another one of bigger crappa pieces to look at over here now that we know
so
all the players?
Let's finish the players out and then we'll get into the biology.
Let's do it.
Luckily for all, at that time, Andrew Mellon was also the Secretary of the Treasury. From that powerful position, he appointed his future son-in-law, Harry Anslinger, to be the head of the new Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Harry Anslinger had already had experience as a federal agent during Prohibition. His job was now to transform the crumbling bureaucracy of Prohibition, which in the meantime had been abolished, into a new weapon to combat and eradicate cannabis from the future of the nation.
The Treasury Department intends to pursue a relentless warfare against the despicable, dope-peddling vulture who preys on the weakness of his fellow man.
One, however, could not openly attack cannabis, which was a plant loved and respected by the vast majority. Hearst then had the brilliant idea to use the Mexican nickname marijuana, which was totally unknown to Americans at the time. In doing so, on one hand, he managed to divert the suspicions of the true objectives of the operation. On the other, by attaching the use of marijuana to blacks and Mexicans, it made it much easier to ride the growing wave of racism that was already sweeping across the country at the time. Adding fuel to the fire, Anslinger declared that marijuana is mostly used by Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with the Negroes, entertainers, and any others. The backlash was immediate, and soon a new green monster was born. The market was flooded with publications of all kinds in which marijuana, also known as reefer, became synonymous with sin, moral depravity, violence, recklessness, and even murder. From the most popular tabloids to adventure books, from comic strips to sophisticated magazines such as Cosmopolitan, all owned by Randolph Hearst, there was hardly a publication that didn't jump on the bandwagon of demonizing marijuana.
So he had an ulterior motive, and he has the most powerful publishing empire. So he just goes out there and says, "Oh, it's evil. It makes colors want to rape white women." And
yeah, I know, right? You know, and I even like the way he didn't put the J in there. He kept the H, like the stigma. Like, we got to make it easy for American people to read this. You know.
Yeah. Right.
Marijuana.
Right.
So who's this girl over here?
So I've been active. I was active. I haven't been so much lately, but with a lot of the cannabis movement across the country, because we are legalizing it and we're getting small victories, but never underestimate the power of these guys. So, you know, it's always backhanded is what it is. And watching, I watched a lot of the small mom and pops start up, put their whole life savings into getting what they call an LCB license. That's our liquor and cannabis board, but that used to be our alcohol board. And it was just convenient that we legalized alcohol not to be regulated as a state agency the same time that we legalized marijuana. So now the LCB can move from regulating alcohol in stores ran by the state to state ran weed stores, right? But they had no idea what the hell they were doing. It took a long time for us to stumble and roll out our legal marijuana, a couple of years here in Washington from the time we passed it till we opened. But also they only issued so many licenses across the state. You know, they didn't want a flood of weed stores. So it was like a lottery to get these licenses. So many people, this had been their life dream to legally grow and own a marijuana store. They pulled their money together. They got, bought multiple shops. Well, that's basically what happened to me. One day I get a phone call from a progressive friend in the progressive movement that says, "Hey, my other friend just inherited a weed store that she was a partner in. She needs somebody to go run it." I didn't know anything about running a weed store. I don't think anybody did really. And so I just went in there and jumped in feet first and took it over and learned everything I absolutely could. Yeah. I went to school. I took, classes after classes. I hosted seminars. I had seminars. I toured with vendors. I had vendors come into the store. I did all kinds of, just cram learning to understand this industry. And what I really came away with years later was corporate America has their hands in everything. And this is exactly what marijuana is to them. I mean, look at Bonner, right? Or Bomber, who was the Speaker of the House, the Republican who stepped
James
down.
Boehner. Yeah.
Yeah, Boehner. And he goes and he buys a bunch of stocks in weed stores, right? So what I've seen in the last few years is these conglomerates coming together and crushing and buying out these mom and pops. And they're making the regulations and the taxes so unfucking bearable. And, the way you have to operate business with a cash-based business only because, it may be legal in your state, but the Fed still has the authority to come in, kick in your door, take all of your product, take all your whole business and crush it if they feel they want to. And so you have to really play by the rules. You don't want to get on anybody's watch list and lose your business. And that's how they're doing it. They're just slowly coming in and taking over. And the states that are legal, that's what I see is happening.
What about big pharma? Not big pharma, big marijuana, like all these.
That's
because here's what's going on. I'm trying to find an old video we did. I did some work too, as far as like protesting and being an activist for mom and pops places to try to keep medical, big medical marijuana out of Pasadena. Because what they did was they used the loophole in the law that once they start making it legal recreationally, that the city gets to police who gets to go in there and who doesn't get to go in there. So what they were doing is they were removing a lot of the mom and pop places that were there, that were medical marijuana places there, that wanted the right to stay in there and fight because the state refused to collect their taxes while they were medical marijuana. And now these places came back and like, listen, we'll pay the back taxes because you guys wouldn't accept it. That's what we did. And yeah, exactly. And then they'll let you stay. But they weren't doing that to several mom and pop places because it seemed that we were trying to figure out. And all of a sudden we were hearing that some of the big boys were coming into town and they wanted to open up their own place. So more privileged people who had a lot of money behind them, backing, whatnot. And just
exactly.
I call it little big pharma, these medical marijuana places. They're getting the scoop in there and they suck because they charge you ridiculous prices.
And they have dirty weed.
Yeah.
And they have dirty weed. Dirty weed's something that we don't talk about. But as somebody who worked in a medical marijuana shop, even though it was a regular weed shop, we had clean marijuana. So we have testing in Washington State. They test for 200 chemicals. All of the growers have to send their crops out for testing before they can sell it to the stores. So we have to get a lab report with each shipment telling us what's in that chemical wise, fertilizers and the shit that they're using in their soils. Well, Washington allows over 200 bad chemicals in your weed. So, it's funny because the really bad weed that has a lot of fertilizer on it normally is the stuff that's very stony and very good tasting, but you're smoking a shit ton of bad weed or bad chemicals. And a lot of us potheads don't even realize that we're doing that.
Yeah, you're you're taking in pesticides and shit.
Right.
It's like I ain't messing with that. That's interesting.
Exactly. And that's something that we don't talk about as, an industry regulation that everybody knows about. Like you just expect your weed to be clean but it's not. You got to ask questions.
Do you have stuff about the Donald Trump bill and what he passed when he was in office eventually down the road? Or do you know anything about that? Because I thought that was like about industrialized cannabis for farming was now going to be permitted.
They did lift some of these they had bans in place where certain industries couldn't use hemp. So Trump did lift some to where there is industries now that can use hemp that couldn't before. But I don't think it was all the way across the board. I think if it was just some things, I mean, the oligarchs would freak out if he lifted it across the board.
I'm gonna try to find out more about that.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. This is such a huge subject. Like, that's why I was saying we need to do like 3 shows on marijuana, I think.
At least.
At least. So this is CannaCon 2018. I got all access VIP passes for all 3 days in Seattle. It was pretty amazing. The workshops were awesome. The people that I got to meet, Charlotte from Charlotte's Web. There's so many, the cannabis activism group or, industry. They're amazing. They're fucking amazing. There's lobbyists, there's activists, there's, they all come from different, angles at what they're fighting for. And this was a summit with the former president of Mexico, Fox, And at the same time, I think that the next day there was Governor Jay Inslee. And the thing about marijuana that we don't talk about and that we really have to start focusing on is the states that legalized, what did they do with the money? We have dumped $7-8 billion worth of revenue into Washington state yearly since we've legalized cannabis, but it's dumping into our general fund, which means it's not really being accounted for where it's going. Now, when we, the voters in Washington state, passed marijuana, passed the 502 bill, we said, because we wanted it to pass, we said, let's give the cops a bunch of money and they can go out and do training and education, right? Well, what we've done in Washington state is us stoners and potheads have completely bought a whole entire new fleet of militarized vehicles for all of Washington state. You see what these cops are driving, you're like, whoa, where the fuck are they getting the money for that? Well, it's because we legalized marijuana and we wanted it to go into our schools and our roads, but that's not where it's going. And nobody's asking questions where it's going because we have a Democratic governor, Jay Inslee.
Wow. It's so funny because you'll see, other, and I think they did the same thing here in Pasadena in some ways. Man, we got a helicopter over here that the gas is just ridiculous every time it goes up. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? And also, too, as well, the way they kind of like went out the whole situation when they were trying to switch out from the small guys and that was the thing, they were allowed to limit how many stores could be in Pasadena. Yeah, so they limited it to a certain amount, like 8, right? And that's it. Boom, we got to get rid of the other ones. They were literally rolling down the streets with armored vehicles to go and bust these places to shut them down. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they can get back and get the people they want in. And that's also what they do. They say, oh, look, marijuana is legal and stuff like that. We have to beef up the police department, right? So then they spend money over there as well. Right. It's no surprise that Arizona, the way they treated this shit, like it was rolling down the street with fucking trucks that used to be in Fallujah and Baghdad. Yeah, exactly. Right? That now that they're the first city to mandate that all their city employees get the vaccine. Such assholes. Sorry. Don't want to talk about that. But it's just so stupid. It's so draconian. They're so stupid. And I'm going to go to the city council when they open up. I'm going to give it to them. I really am. Oh, my God. Our city councils are bad, too. But we do manage to have a couple of good people on my local city councils because we fought so hard. But, yeah, it sucks at every level. I was going to say one thing that people don't know. You can't use debit or credit because the Fed doesn't recognize it as legal. So it's a cash business only. Let me tell you, there was weekends where I would leave with $50,000 fucking cash on me. I'm carrying a taser. I'm scared that somebody's going to jump me coming out of the store because they know I'm a cash-based business. And now what do I do with this money? Do I go dig a hole and bury it? I had to literally buy my way into a bank. So there's only like 2 or 3 banks that are approved to handle medical or marijuana money. And they won't accept you unless you make a certain amount of money. So I had to qualify with my sales, and then I had to pay a couple $1,000 to open the account. And it was insane. I had to buy my way into a bank so I didn't have piles of cash laying around. And then it was like 100 miles away. I had to take a ferry to the nearest bank to make the deposits. That's how crazy it fucking was. That's the thing too, as well, that you're also putting people in jeopardy and danger when you have to carry that much cash. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another thing. My immediate thought was like, man, your safety. I hope that you're okay and you get there, whatnot. Right. Well, let me tell you about the tracking systems in those stores. We tracked every piece of marijuana that came into our store. From the minute that it came from the grower, it was tracked to the vendor to the store, from the vendor to me and to my system, and then it batched out onto the floor and then scanned out to what customer. They know your name, they know where you live, and they know exactly the barcode number of the weed that you just bought going out the damn door. Isn't that being more responsible than allowing to just be on the streets where a kid gets a hold of something that's bad, doesn't know what he's getting? Somebody sold him a joint laced with fucking angel dust. Remember that was the scare back in the 90s? It was. Don't ever get a joint. Yeah. If you're going to do it, you'll go crazy. Roll your own shit. They could put angel dust in it and stuff, but if that does happen, that happens because it's not regulated. When it comes from a facility, and we have responsible managers and people running the place like yourself, if a kid gets a hold of something, you know exactly who he got it from, where he got it, when he got it, and how he got it, and you can go right back there and you can actually investigate. It's way better than just allowing a black market to run shit on the streets.
Right. And the thing is, I carded everybody that came into my store. I was a bartender long before this. The same guy who managed alcohol was my weed manager years later. It was kind of funny. Like, oh, I remember you when I was bartending, now I'm bartending. But we carded everybody, but you always have those assholes that are just like throw a fit because you asked for ID. It's like, look, what you don't understand is the state holds me physically or completely liable, financially liable. If you go fuck up or you kill somebody or you get hurt, whatever. As a bartender, it was that way. And as a bud tender, you sell to a fucking minor, you're going to go to prison if you do it a couple times in our state. So, I mean, it was pretty serious violation. And your store gets shut down. If you get caught selling to minors, even in a sting, they'll shut your store down.
Well, the one thing I kind of agree with is that the packaging, when it came to food, at one point they were trying to emulate a lot of other packages like that.
The post-consumer waste in this industry, I hadn't even, it's disgusting. There's so much post-consumer waste.
Well, not even just the consumer waste, but like if the packaging that looks like a Mountain Dew, looks like a weed soda, looks like a Mountain Dew, and a kid sees that, he could crack that and drink that. You know
right. So we had very strenuous ad requirements and advertisements. Like I made a little poster up and I had two little buds and I put eyeballs on them and I named them Indy and Steve or something. I don't know. And we have to send all of our ads to be approved. And they were like, no, you can't have that one because it's too relatable to kids. So you can't have any cartoons. You can't have any bright colors.
I think it was the Fabuloso had to change their marketing too because it looked too much like Gatorade and kids are drinking floor cleaner. So yeah. The women of weed and Chanda's one of them. What's next?
Now, okay, so I'm going to show you, video of a woman who needs, how much it helps somebody with, say, Parkinson's. And really, that's what I dealt with. So this first video, and then we're going to get into the biology of it, the boring biology.
Okay, I have questions.
Okay.
Your seats, I want you to lean in because today I get to tell you a secret. And it's a secret that's been well kept for almost 30 years. And I want to start by sharing with you a quick story about a revolutionary named Jill. So let's watch.
Hello, my name is Jill, and I have Parkinson's disease. I'm taking my Parkinson prescription medication this morning, and this is how it helps, and it doesn't. This is my oil, cannabis oil, and I'm just gonna spread it on the biscuit like that. It's been 20 minutes since I've had that butter in the biscuit, and I feel wonderful. No shakes, no nothing.
All right, so we're all happy Jill got better, right? But you're probably wondering, how is that possible? How is it possible that her well-researched, FDA-approved drugs aren't working for her, but something else is? It's because there's a secret system in your body that no one is talking about. Now we know these systems really well, right? They're taught in every health, anatomy, and physiology class between elementary and high school and medical school. You guys know these? Yeah, we have our circulatory and our pulmonary systems, our skeletal and muscular systems, just to name a few. And we all know about our nervous system, which we once thought controlled them all. But today I'm going to talk to you about this system. It's a system totally unlike, supreme to, and in control of all the rest. And it was completely left out of every single medical textbook I read, despite its discovery 27 years ago. Right? I am not making this up. This is for real. So since it's not in the textbook, I'm going to share it with you today.
So what she's talking about is the endocannabinoid system. So she talked about all the other systems. You got your nervous system,
Yeah.
Your endocannabinoid system, they just discovered I think they discovered it in the 60s, but it really became they really started to understand how it works in the 90s. And so I brought a few little clips. If you're one of those science people that you just kind of tune it out when you see science, because I get that. I do that sometimes. Sorry, but we have to talk about how it interacts with your body, because literally your body was created to have cannabis. It's like, imagine a lock with a key. Cannabis is the key and the lock is in your body, and it's always been there. It's in all mammals. It's, and it's one of the evolutionary systems that's been with humankind one of the longest. Like,
Chanda,
it's evolved with us this long.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you say that first sentence about, just say it again because I want to hear it. Did you say that cannabis is designed to be in our system?
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%.
Wow.
I know, that was shocking to me when I heard that in class. I was at college. Like,
I want to bring that to my mom. Mom,
yeah, Mom, you hear me?
why were you giving me shit all these years that I was meant to have this stuff?
Right. And the way that it reacts with your body. So we're going to talk about that. I want to break it down a little bit and show you how it reacts with the body. So this is CB1. You hear CBD, but we're going to talk.
So
CBD.
Why does cannabis work? When talking about the effectiveness of cannabis and how it works in the body, we always have to start with the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS as we call it, because it can be a little bit of a mouthful. So what is the ECS? It's an essential system in the body, kind of like our hormonal system or our cardiovascular system, and it's present in all mammals, including humans, of course, primarily in our nervous, limbic, and immune systems. And its role is to help create homeostasis, or balance, in the body. It also helps keep our cells healthy throughout our entire lives. A scientist named DiMarzo described the function of the ECS as helping the body eat, sleep, relax, forget, and protect itself. And you may be asking yourself, well, why haven't I been taught about this in school? Or why hasn't my doctor told me about this? Well, there's a couple reasons. First, it wasn't discovered until the 1970s, and although there's been a massive amount of research since then, it's taken the institutional medical system a while to start to understand how the ECS works and its importance when thinking about the causes and treatment of disease. Today, the largest institutions and healthcare providers in the world recognize the essential role that the ECS plays in our bodies and the potential of cannabis to act on that system in a therapeutic way. It's ironic that this discovery was made so recently, considering that the ECS is one of the oldest regulatory systems in our bodies. It's been around for millions of years and hasn't changed much in that time, meaning that it has a very high level of what we actually call evolutionary conservation, highlighting its essential role in keeping us healthy throughout our entire lives. The ECS is a lock and key system. The cell receptors act as locks, and cannabinoids act as the keys.
Okay, so like I was saying, it's a lock and key system. Now you have multiples of these different ones, and so what
all over your body,
or all over your body, all over. So what this system does is it regulates your homeostasis. I feel well, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep, I sleep well, I'm jittery, I'm shaking, I can't control myself. Your homeostasis is, I feel good. Well, what happens is you get stuck in a cycle of the negative. And what CBD or, CBDA, CBDN does, because you can get a different combination of these, is it goes in there and it blocks that and it stops it from cycling. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in this clip.
Okay.
The endocannabinoid system plays critical roles in many biological processes, ranging from pain sensitivity to immune function. Everything we know about this elaborate system was discovered within the last 50 years. It all began with a simple question about an ancient medicinal plant. Cannabis is an herbaceous flowering species indigenous to Eastern Asia, with records of therapeutic and recreational use dating back more than 45 centuries. While the clinical effects of cannabis on basic body functions were well known, the chemical constituent responsible for its actions remained a mystery until 1964, when an Israeli chemist named Raphael Mechoulam identified and isolated delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, for the first time. Further exploration of how THC and other phytocannabinoids worked were hindered by the limited technologies available to molecular biologists and chemists at the time. It wasn't until 1988 when THC was found to bind to a receptor known as CB1, which is abundantly expressed in the brains of vertebrates, particularly in regions responsible for cognition, emotions, appetite, and motor coordination. THC's ability to attach to CB1 receptors in the brain explained many of its psychotropic and euphoriant effects, but it couldn't explain its peripheral actions. In 1993, a second cannabinoid receptor subtype, known as CB2, was discovered and later found to occur throughout the immune system, gut, and other peripheral tissues. While scientists were solving old mysteries about cannabis, a new and bigger question was emerging. What physiological purpose do these receptors serve? Nature wouldn't conserve them unless they performed a natural physiological function. Attempts to identify endogenous substances that activate these receptors began and soon culminated in the discovery of endocannabinoids in the mid-1990s. Since these landmark contributions, ample research has established that the role of the endocannabinoid system is to maintain homeostasis, or balance. It ensures that cells communicate effectively, but not excessively. The endocannabinoid system is comprised of three components. First, there are the endocannabinoids that the body makes from lipid precursors. Anandamide and 2-AG are the most well-researched and abundant endocannabinoids the body makes. The second component consists of the receptors that these substances bind to, which include, but are not limited to, CB1 and CB2. The third part consists of enzymes that tightly control the levels of anandamide and 2-AG at any given time. The endocannabinoid system is largely under enzymatic control, and the levels of endocannabinoids are determined by the balance of enzyme-mediated synthesis and degradation. The CB1 receptor predominates in the central nervous system, where it functions to restrain excessive neurotransmission. When neurons release excessive amounts of chemical messengers, endocannabinoids act as a brake to restore balance. Here is a schematic of a neuronal synapse in which an excitatory neurotransmitter is being released from the presynaptic cell. The neurotransmitter binds and activates the receptor on the postsynaptic neuron. This stimulation triggers the synthesis and release of endocannabinoids. These endocannabinoids travel in a retrograde manner back across the synapse, where they bind to the CB1 receptor located in the membrane of the presynaptic cell. Once activated, the CB1 receptor inhibits further release of the stimulating neurotransmitter, eliciting a relaxant effect.
Okay, so I know that was boring and a lot to take in, but I had to bring it to show you it's not bullshit. This is the science behind it.
I think this is why I feel so good after that banana and blunt, right? The potassium settled the stomach, the CBD, the cannabinoids went throughout my whole body and told it to feel happy, and that's why I'm here and stuff. So yeah, I mean,
the difference on the receptor, on how it just goes and plugs into the receptor, where an opiate goes in and floods that receptor and burns it out, just like.
Well, see, that's the question. So that's what opioids do, right? Yeah. So cannabis will go in and it will go into the receptors and just massage it, make it feel good. The body will react to it, you know. But opioids, they go in and they do the opposite. They actually burn the receptors.
Right, like. When I would be in withdrawals from opiates, smoking weed would help me. I mean, because what it's doing is the parts of the endocannabinoid system that are misfiring. So like the shaking, like I get like almost a Parkinson's shake when I'm in DTs, and the not being able to regulate your body temperature. That's this system. So the THC or the CBD goes in there and it calms it down. I don't say that it takes away withdrawals. Absolutely, hell no. But will it give you a little bit of relief? Yeah, you know,
a little bit.
Little bit. Yeah. Like,
I mean, anybody who's taking CBD nowadays understands this. Like, right? They just feel great. You know what I'm saying? When they're taking, I know people who didn't even smoke weed that took CBD, and then we also know about the pet treatments for pets with their legs, and they're getting old. They have like CBD products for them, and it's really miracles for dogs who have had a hard time walking or suffering from arthritis and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it just does explain it right here, you know?
Right. And I want to go a little bit into depth further down the deck about THC and CBD and how they work together and what's the best combo and way to use those. So yeah, we'll get to that part. Let's finish off the endocannabinoid system, and we'll talk about terpenes. What are terpenes and why do they matter?
The CB2 receptor is distributed throughout peripheral tissues, but is highly enriched in cells belonging to the immune system and GI tract. Endocannabinoids activate CB2 receptors located on the membranes of cells. Once activated, CB2 receptors elicit many immunomodulating effects, which depend on the cell type and its environment. CB2 activation moderates cytokine release, which has broad clinical implications.
Okay.
Endocannabinoids interact with many other molecular targets beyond CB1 and CB2. For example, anandamide binds, activates, and desensitizes an ion channel known as TRPV1. This interaction reduces the perception of pain. Easy ways to support the normal function of the endocannabinoid system include exercise, weight management, stress management, and minimizing environmental toxin exposures. Endocannabinoids are made from membrane phospholipids. Most of them are conjugates of fatty acids and amines. Given the diversity of fatty acids and amines that are already in existence throughout the body, there are many possible combinations. Anandamide and 2-AG are the most well-researched endocannabinoids, but the list is likely to expand in the coming years. Hemp is a complex natural product with hundreds of constituents, including over 100 different phytocannabinoids, most of which still await pharmacological exploration. The most abundant and well-researched non-psychotropic phytocannabinoid is cannabidiol, or CBD. At first glance, CBD is structurally similar to THC. The only difference is the broken ring in CBD. This nuance enables CBD to bend in 3 dimensions, whereas THC is flat. This difference explains why CBD lacks euphoriant or psychotropic properties, because it cannot bind to the same site the way THC does. Instead, it works by interacting with a number of other molecular targets that include receptors, enzymes, and ion channels. CBD increases levels of the endocannabinoid anandamide by inhibiting its reuptake and degradation. As a result, more anandamide is available to activate presynaptic cannabinoid receptors. The enzyme that CBD modulates is known as fatty acid amide hydrolase, or FAAH. This inhibition is relatively weak, however, it is supported by multiple studies. CBD may negatively regulate CB receptor activation in the presence of agonists, such as THC. CBD facilitates neurotransmission mediated by the serotonin 5-HT1A receptor. Activation of this receptor transmits calming signals in certain brain regions. CBD also activates and desensitizes neuronal ion channels involved in sensory transmission. Other molecular targets include adenosine, PPAR-gamma, and another G-protein-coupled receptor called GPR55, which may be a novel endocannabinoid receptor. Cannabis is prolific in generating secondary metabolites called terpenes, which accumulate in the oil. Plants make terpenes mainly to defend themselves by discouraging herbivores and insects from consuming the plant. Terpenes lend unique fragrances and tastes to culinary herbs, spices, and plant foods. Many of them have medicinal properties. Beta-caryophyllene is a sesquiterpenoid that not only occurs in hemp oil, but in the essential oils of cloves, oregano, rosemary, and black pepper. In contrast,
okay, so I brought that one to talk about CBDs and terpenes because everybody talks about CBDs, right? Oh, I give my dog CBDs. I'm taking CBDs. Well, the thing about CBDs is CBDs and THC don't work well together. They just said THC will inhibit CBD, right? It blocks it, but it blocks it. You got to have a little tiny bit of THC with your CBD. So, I mean, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but this is what I would do personally, or this is what I've been taught by the medical people, is you want a little tiny bit of THC in your CBD. So most people that are buying CBDs at the grocery store or mail ordering them, yes, if you don't use cannabis on a regular basis, it will help you a little bit, but it's really not going to absorb into the cell wall the way that it needs to in order to affect the endocannabinoid system like it should. So you want, when, say, if you were using it as a treatment, I'm not going to say for what, but if you wanted to regiment on it for some kind of treatment, you're fighting something big, you would want at least 10 parts to 100 parts CBD. So like you would want a combo. And you can go, and when you talk to these professionals in these weed stores, they will tell you this, this has got 10% to 40% CBD. So you want a little tiny bit of THC with the CBD in order to help absorb it. And it's the same way with topicals too. A lot of people use those rubs. The rubs you buy at the grocery stores, I hate to tell you guys this shit, but it's bunk. It's garbage shit that's really not going to help you any more than deep heat or Bengay. But if you go to the actual marijuana store and you get one that has a percentage of THC in it, that's the one that's truly going to help you. And they do work amazing. If you've ever used a topical or a resin, they work so well.
So you need a little THC with your CBD. But what about the other way around? When we buy OG Kush, does that have THC and CBD?
No. And so the industry is breeding out CBD, right? Because CBD doesn't make you feel stoned. It kind of balances.
So it doesn't have the hallucinogenic kind of thing, and it has a break in one of the things. So therefore, it's three-dimensional, unlike marijuana. I guess THC, is one-dimensional. I did my homework.
Well, that octagon's missing the line is what it is.
Yes.
But yeah, exactly. So you want a little bit, but it's not always so for us smokers, when we, we want a heavy hitting indica, I want a little bit of CBD in it. So, you can flip it over. Different states do different things, but in my state, it'll tell me the active chemicals. So it'll say THC 21%, CBD 2%. CBD in 1.4%, CBD-A 3%. Now, once you understand marijuana and you start knowing what all of these CBDs are doing, I prefer a CBD in because it helps me sleep. I'm learning my keys. I'm learning which ones to hit with those keys in order to get me the perfect high, because you have people that are like, oh, I hate weed. I get paranoid when I smoke it, or, some people have bad effects. That's because you're not using the right combination, the right kind. You probably need an indica, not a sativa, more of a body high than a cerebral high.
Yeah. I don't even think we're going to get into ingesting weed. How?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have had like bad trips from ingesting weed.
Oh God.
All right. You took too much. Your body's just throwing it out. That's it. So.
Okay, Oz, you can skip this one. Go ahead and go to the next one because we kind of pretty much covered all of this. I don't want to keep.
I want to go back to. I want to go to school and say, "Yo, can I sign up?"
You can. It's like $650.
I want to go back and watch these videos again to understand them completely. You know what I'm saying? I try to like really, really tune in for the lessons, the high school part of this, the college part of this, the education part like that, because that's some interesting shit over there. Because we were also talking about LaGuardia. What he was trying to do back in the early 1900s was getting into the labs, let them study it, let them test it. But Ames Slinger and his goons stopped them from even letting the scientists look at it.
That was in 1955. In 1955, LaGuardia tried to get universal testing on it through the medical university.
1955?
1955. In 1956 was the first Class C Act. So that's when we first started regulating and classifying everything. But oddly enough, the first marijuana bill that made it illegal was signed by FDR in 1937.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. What an asshole. Everybody says FDR.
I know, right? I was shocked. I was like,
asshole.
Fucking FDR. He would make it illegal. He always kissed those oligarchs' asses, didn't he? He saved those fucking oligarchs is what he did.
Well,
okay.
Before we get to this video, just a quick shout out to James Evans. Thank you so much for the Super 8 contribution. I got to let you know, Chanda, Hunter Carranza is in the chat. Much love, fam.
Much
from
love.
Hunter Carranza.
I'm glad you two got to hang out. I love it when fam gets to hook up and meet. It's always, we are such a great community. We have the best community, I swear.
We do, by far.
We absolutely do. Okay, so let's talk about terpenes. Terpenes are
what
they said are the oils. So terpenes are a natural oil that is found in plants that it's actually to protect themselves, right? To make themselves stinky or undesirable.
So the bugs won't eat them. Herbivores.
Right. That's exactly what a terpene is. So we're going to run this video and then we'll talk about terpenes.
By now you know about THC, CBD, and the other compounds that cannabis has to offer. But terpenes are just as important. They're the chemicals found in essential oils of plants that give each strain its unique aroma. If cannabis were a glass of wine, terpenes would be the notes, the subtle scents and tastes that give each variety its special character. It's no surprise that chefs and bud tenders are doing terpene tastings. Here's a few of the terpenes you need to know. Pinene. If you've been on a walk in the woods, you'll recognize this one. Like the name suggests, it can be found in pine needles as well as orange peels and rosemary. If you smoke or vaporize a strain that's rich in pinene, it can make you feel more alert and help you retain memories.
Really?
Myrcene.
Yeah.
You'll find this
Myrcene's
earthy
mine.
terpene in cloves, as well as citrus, lemongrass, and especially mango. That's why people say that eating a piece of mango before you consume cannabis will extend your high. Myrcene is known to act against pain and inflammation and also acts as a sedative. So try a myrcene heavy indica if you're trying to get a good night's sleep. Linalool. This floral terpene's sweet-smelling bouquet is also found in lavender. One of its most exciting benefits is its ability to counteract stress, depression, and anxiety. Limonene. This is also found in juniper, peppermint, and as its name suggests, citrus. Limonene is known for giving its users an energized, elevated mood and can also be used to counteract anxiety and depression. Caryophyllene. This spicy terpene is also found in hops and basil and gives black pepper its distinctive smell. It's a popular choice for cannabis topicals due to its strong anti-inflammatory properties. And that's just a taste. Get out there and find the terpene combination that works best for you.
Chanda is taking us to weed mother effing college over here. Love it.
Let me tell you, working terpenes was my favorite thing to do. I worked with some very amazing vendors. One's called Trailblazing out of Seattle. They would bring in vials of terpenes, and what we would do is have the customers smell them. Do you think this is pleasant or do you not like it? Your body's going to tell you what you like and what you need, right?
Yes.
And so mine's myrcene and the lemon one. I like the lemon ones. They relax me. You know, they're earthy. But they all have different ones. So finding people's terps that go with them was always so much fun.
I want to do a terpene taste test right now.
I know.
I don't know which terpene I like. Every single time the new one came up, I like that one too. I like that one. You said the second one. Which one was that?
Myrcene. Myrcene's my favorite.
That's your jam, huh?
Yeah, that's my jam. And you know what? You saw that picture of me smelling.
Yes.
We had weed smell bottles. So when I would order a shipment in, I would get a smell bottle. So that way my customers can smell it, because who wants to buy weed you can't smell? And in these weed stores, you're just, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah. I always ask to smell it.
Yeah. And so I would have test jars.
Yes. And some of it's like, well, that's a product that's come in from a commercial product, so we can't let you smell it, that kind of thing. But the ones they let me smell, and I also like the places that had coffee grinds there too. So you'd smell one, and then you'd smell the coffee grinds, and then you'd smell another one, and the coffee grinds would be there to wipe the nose palate clean. So
it very much is like wine. When you start to really get deep into the different cannabis strains and the terpenes and the different THC levels and combinations, where you have CBD and CBDN and CBDA, you really will find a marijuana that works for you. Even if you don't think that you could smoke pot, this ain't the pot you bought from the kid down the street, in 8th grade. This is, exactly what you're getting.
Well, I see you have some questions up there, but the third question was, does higher THC mean you get higher? I'm asking for a friend.
Now, okay, so this is a big point of contention as a bud tender. You always have that guy that comes in and goes, I want the highest THC in the store. And you go, yeah, but that's not the stoniest stuff in the store. And so, no, that is a myth. Higher THC does not mean you get higher. Higher THCs are normally in sativas. You don't really see very high indicas. But I would say 30 to 35 is a really high THC level in the industry right now, unless you're smoking a resin or an oil or a wax, which you can get those all the way up to 99.9%,
Yeah.
That's another thing that you have to be really careful about, is a lot of these waxes. I know a lot of people that move from flower to wax, and a lot of these waxes are made with butanes and gases that are not good, like they're not clean. Like every time you hit that vape pen, you're taking a big old hit of propane, You have to be careful about what you're buying,
what you're buying and stuff. I see the next one is, what's the difference between sativa, indica, or hybrid? Correct me if I'm wrong. Sativas are more cerebral, indicas are more body high, and hybrid depends on which part of the strain is more dominant, to have a little combination of both, correct?
Right. So
are you sativa or indica?
I'm an indica girl all the way.
Me too.
I mean,
I'm a Kush guy.
Yeah, me too. I'm smoking a Kush right now, which is a hybrid. So it's got some alien riff in it with some Kush. So it's probably a good 80-20 blend, which means it's 80% sativa, 20% indica, which is what I like during the day. But at nighttime, I switch it up and I'll go with a very heavy indica to just relax my body. And I really can tell the difference between smoking an indica and a sativa. My body will relax, I won't, I don't feel stoned,
I'm a indica guy, and my favorite one,
I
obviously, I'm a Kush guy, but my favorite is Skywalker Kush because
I like Skywalker.
I love the smell of Skywalker Kush. It's like my favorite smell of any type of grass out there.
Right.
Yeah.
No. But
and the last one, wax, oils, edible flower, and topicals. What's the difference?
Yeah. So sadly, though, I was going to say that strains of sativa and indica, like the old school, like Maui Wowie and White Widow, the ones that we all grew up on in the 80s and 90s, those have been bred pretty much out of extinction. There is still a few original, like Alaskan Thunderfuck, stuff like that. There's a few of those strains left with some growers, but most growers ended up turning most of their crops into hybrids. So it's really hard to just find a straight Kush anymore. I actually knew in Washington State one company that was growing a straight indica Kush, and they're really hard to find 100% anymore.
Well, get the seeds from that straight indica Kush so we can keep it going.
I'm really good friends with them. So wax, oils, edibles, flowers, and topicals, what's the difference? So waxes are a heavy concentrate that's been cooked down. All the crystals from the plant, the THC, has been turned into a resin, tacky. You can smoke it with a wax rig, which you have to heat it up and really get it hot. And
Got to get the torch.
You got to get the torch out to smoke that. I'm not a big wax girl because it gives me a headache just because of the high concentrate. And then I notice I have to smoke more. I don't get as stoned when I smoke weed, so I don't want to ruin my tolerance. Is why I don't.
I hit a little bubbler bong this weekend and just got me too high. I was like, oh man,
you get so high, you're just like, oh,
I'm a joint and blunt guy. That's what I'm at. That's my jam. I like, you see what I'm saying? I like to get the white owls now. That's kind of the cool, easy one. Crack them, wrap them.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I had a bunch of white owls. I clearanced once out of my store. So oils are ones that you could take, like you saw that woman putting some on a cookie and eating it. They're also called resins. You know, those are really the medicinal ones. If you're really looking for medicinal and you're not a smoker, you don't, that's what you really need to be looking at. Topicals, flowers, of course, flower, and then joints. Joints are a big thing now. Blunts.
Oz, can you take us off the screen for a second? Because I wanted to ask Chanda about the trailblazing there. What is that trailblazing over there?
Trailblazing, they're a 100% clean company out of Seattle. I really love their strains. They got some of the best strains that I've came across, and we're doing the terpene testing right there. You see the little black bottles. They really are about the terpenes, and like all those charts tell you all the different ones, and they have little cards you can take home with you. They're a great company if you ever come across Trailblazing in Washington.
I want to get terpene-ish. I want to
right.
I want to, when you smell the terpenes, do they have THC and CBD?
No, they're
just
not
the
allowed
oils,
to.
the scents.
Yeah, this is the oils, the scent. So, and that's why essential oils work so well for so many people. It's the same biology as this, the essential oil itself. And this other one, this is a topical vendor. I really learned a lot about topicals. I didn't really believe in topicals when I first got into the industry, but then I got old and started using them, and goddamn, they work really well.
I use this CBD oil made from this one guy, and it's the best thing for my eczema that I've ever had. He uses coconut oil as a base, and he does some type of process. He tried to explain it to me, and it's amazing. It's better than anything I found. And I'm that guy who had to go to Whole Foods just to get the Florazone, which was the eczema natural cream.
Right.
It would say what do you call homeogenic? What's the word of homeopathic?
Homeopathic
on it, and it's so expensive, and it really would just ease the itching and the pain and the heat. But the CBD oil that he made was just amazing.
This woman here in this picture here, she was my mentor. I met her in the Bernie Sanders movement.
In the Sanders movement.
Of course, in the Sanders movement. It was her store. She had just survived a double mastectomy and breast cancer. She took the chemo, but at the same time that she took the chemo, she treated herself. She literally flew across the country because she had been in the activism community for cannabis for many, many years. And she went and she studied with doctors and some of the most amazing people. And she learned how to treat herself. She cured herself. And then she went out there and she is curing other people. And I say curing is not lightly. I have seen people who were close to death and marijuana's brought them back. And I wear this shirt, marijuana is safer than alcohol or chemo, because it is safer than chemo. It's safer than what Big Pharma wants to sell you. And that's the biggest thing about destigmatizing this to me is it can save lives. It can make the quality of life better for so many people.
I remember watching a video where a kid who had cancer and he was getting, I think he had chemo and he was getting treatments, and he wasn't eating, and his father was a hard-time Christian, didn't want to get him marijuana. The mother finally convinced him to go to a place, and they went there and they, did a volcano rip. And after the kid ripped it a couple times, he went out and his mother and he asked, Mom, can you make me one of those sandwiches you used to? And the mother broke down and started crying because he just, with on all the other treatments, he couldn't eat. And the kid was just so malnourished, I'm studying my words here. He was suffering from malnutrition, and marijuana brought his life back. You know what I'm saying? It helped him out. I don't know how long the kid lasted for with, his cancer, but I definitely tell you this much. He definitely had a better lifestyle on the way out. The fact that he was smoking, you know what I'm saying? So.
No, you're absolutely right. And I've heard so many, and I've seen so many testimonials, especially being at these big conferences like CannaCon. And
who made these shirts, by the way?
Freedom Rally March. Wearing. We're going to talk about that next.
Okay, I'm jumping the gun again. Jumping the shark. We got a cartoon over here. What's going on?
Yeah, so let's finish this up. This is THC versus CBD, and then we'll be done with these videos.
I don't like the thumbnail already. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about CBD and THC, which are two important chemicals found in marijuana. With marijuana legalization becoming mainstream, what is the actual difference between CBD and THC? Inside you right now, there's a biological pathway at work called the endocannabinoid system that helps regulate your mood, appetite, memory, and pain sensation. THC and CBD, though, hijack this system. This is the chemical structure of THC, also known as tetrahydrocannabinol if you are feeling fancy. And this is the chemical structure of CBD, also known as cannabidiol. What you may notice is that their chemical structures seem almost identical. They have the same molecular formula, which is C21H30O2, and both of their masses clock in at 314 grams per mole. But there is one extremely important structural difference. Where THC contains a cyclic ring, CBD contains a hydroxyl group. And this difference in biochemistry actually controls whether or not you feel high. In order to fully understand why, you need to first know about the CB1 receptor. In your unstoned, sober body, your CB1 receptor is affected by a neurotransmitter called anandamide, which controls generation of pleasure, motivation, and feeding behavior. In your unstoned body, anandamide is released after exercising, and it's what causes a runner's high. THC's structure is so similar to anandamide that it fits in perfectly to the CB1 receptor, therefore causing you to feel high. CBD, on the other hand, because of the hydroxyl group, is different in shape and does not fit into the CB1 receptor, therefore it doesn't make you feel high. But CBD does bind to other receptors in your cannabinoid system, affecting you in other ways. A lot of excitement came around a 2011 study where a few dozen people with social anxiety disorder were asked to speak in front of a large audience. Some were given CBD, some were given a placebo. Those who were given CBD reported significantly less anxiety. There are also many animal studies showing CBD's anti-anxiety and anti-inflammatory properties, which can explain why some people say it helps with their anxiety and with chronic pain. Research is also discovering that THC can actually aggravate psychotic symptoms, while CBD, on the other hand, may help with psychosis. So what happens when you consume them at the same time? One study found that due to CBD's biochemical shape, it can actually bind to the CB1 receptor and turn it off in a binding pattern known to biologists as allosteric inhibition. This means that CBD actually makes the THC unable to bind as well and therefore decreases how high you feel. If you vaporize marijuana with 25% THC and 0.1% CBD, you will feel high, as the THC is going to bind to the CB1 receptor with little interference from CBD. If you consume marijuana with 25% THC and 12% CBD, this more CBD will inhibit the THC from binding to the CB1 receptor, decreasing THC's effect and leading you to being less high. Where marijuana is legally sold, likely they will indicate what percentage of THC and CBD is in the product you are choosing, which will help you to understand the effects it will have on your body. In the end, THC is a chemical found in marijuana with a chemical structure that makes you feel high. CBD is a chemical found in marijuana with a different chemical structure that doesn't make you feel high, but it can affect your body in other less obvious ways. There is still conflicting research and a lot more to understand about both.
Well, if they want to use me as a lab rat.
Yeah. Okay. So I brought that because I wanted you to see that there's a difference between the CBD and the THC. So if you're looking for medicine, you want to look for CBD.
Got it.
Got it.
And you said there's got to be a good percentage of CBD with your THC to really make it work properly or better, or no?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, do you have to have a certain percentage of CBD with your THC to make the THC better? Or is that just the vice versa? It's the CBD, you need a little THC to kick it in somehow.
Okay, so you saw the percentage on that. You want it to be a very low percentage, like 1%, 2.1%. You want it to be very ratioed, lopsided for whatever.
And that's if you're just
looking to get high THC. If you're looking for medicine, high CBD.
Got it.
So you want the opposite. But then there's there's things like people in their dog treats. This is another thing. You never want to give your dogs THC. Dogs cannot tolerate THC. They don't have the receptors. It makes them deathly ill. I have heard so many accounts from people whose Chihuahua ate their weed and, I gave them a little oil and next thing you know, you're in the vet with, huge vet bills. CBDs for animals have to be straight CBDs. They cannot have any THC in them.
Got it. You hear that at home, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
And this is so true right here. This is something I would say to my mom all the time. Mom, marijuana is safer than alcohol. All the time.
It is. It absolutely is. So this is my friend, Jared Alloway. He actually came and helped me manage that store. He came from Seattle and I came from, we met in the middle and we took over the store and we just jumped in together. And he's a really great guy. He actually has stood on a street corner for 10 years leading up to the legalization in Washington State with a sign that said, marijuana is safer than alcohol. And he kind of got the name as, hey, you're the safer guy, because everybody called him that. And he started marketing these shirts, marijuana is safer than alcohol. But then it kind of morphed into its own thing. And now it's marijuana is safer than big pharma. Marijuana is safer than, there's so much. We make political jokes out of it. But you can find him on Facebook at Safer Shirts. And get the message out there. We have to destigmatize. That's why I love wearing this shirt in public. I have multiples. I have ones that say alcohol. I have different designs, different colors. And people just walk right up to me and go, oh my God, absolutely. I agree. Just out of the blue. So that's part of it.
Me one of those shirts.
Yeah.
Get me one of those shirts.
I think we had one that said marijuana is safer than being a Dem or something like that. Yeah.
Marijuana safer than the two-party
most of this movement is very, very fucking progressive. I got to say it's a big crossover for, especially in the Seattle area, of the progressive activism, like Shaman Sawant's groups and stuff that are part of the cannabis movement too.
William M says marijuana is safer than COVID-19 vaccines. Will, don't start problems over here. Stop it.
I know. We're already getting some.
Grapefruit does not do the same thing, Tom. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not even going to go there.
What do we got next?
Okay, so we're getting ready. We're closing now, but I came across this today and I had to. I couldn't resist. It's too funny. I have to reface this.
Go ahead.
Hey, Holmes. Hey, man, that's a song, man. I've been smoking since I was born, man. I could smoke anything, man. I think you better light it in here, man.
What?
These gas fumes, man.
Oh, man.
Was that me as Chong?
It was you as Chong. I have a friend who just had Chong. I have a friend who just had Chong on her podcast, and I'm just like, oh, I need to bring Kit on. There's so many people in the cannabis industry or activists that I want to bring on to talk to you guys, because I mean, I don't know shit compared to these people.
Well, you know a lot. You taught us about cannabinoids today. So cannabis ignorance is created by being starved of education. Be the educator. Talk about cannabis like you did today.
Yep. It's got to be as socially acceptable to go home and smoke a bowl or a joint as it is to go home and have a glass of wine or a beer.
Oz, I just added on a little video the Combo Couch did. When marijuana is on the tack, what do? Stand up, fight back? Is that how it goes?
Yep.
So are you able to separate that and grab that? Let me see if you can. If not, I can
just give me a couple of seconds.
My bad, brother. Yeah, what happened, fam, was we were around the corner of, obviously City Hall, and I talked about the, machine grade, the weaponized kind of like going down straight up down the road with army vehicles, weapons of war, to go into medical marijuana places and bust them, to treat them like just awful, awful shit. So they were trying to get rid of the mom and pop marijuana stores. And one store in particular, the dispensary that I stuck to, was a really cool one, because on Sunday they would have this crazy like recession special, and they would get like a lot of homeless people would go there that were around there, and the only thing that would keep them sane was marijuana. And these guys made it a point to go ahead and help people in the community out.
$2 joints. I would do that too.
Yeah, and they were trying to get rid of these guys. Why? So they can get their own medical marijuana in. So we showed up. We said no corporate cannabis, and Johnny with the raw cuts over here, you know how he does it. A little story. So you can check it out. It's only a minute and change.
Come on now. You're crossing the line. Come on, marijuana.
Those whenever we're going to high-risk warrant service or we get called out on a barricaded suspect.
Hell no, we won't go! Hell no, we won't go!
We have patients, and then patients know us, and patients want for the existing shop to stay. They don't want big companies come to the bus, and that's the main thing.
Saw me there.
Yeah, I did.
Crossing the fucking line. Oh, don't mess with my marijuana. You know what I'm saying? And we got a bunch of people out there, we knew what they were doing. And they were just demonizing everything. And then throughout the whole papers, the way they were talking about it, like, we don't want these dispensaries near places of worship and schools. I'm like, are you going to close down the fucking alcohol store that's within 20 feet of the goddamn front door?
The bar. Yeah.
I mean, stop it over here, the stigma. And that's why I wish I had your shirt to wear in the city council. Says marijuana is safer than alcohol.
I'll get you one. I will get you one. I definitely will get you one. But I have multiples. That's another thing. This fight for legalization is far from over, because like in Washington state, they legalized it for you to go buy it in a store, but you can't grow it. We have no homegrown. We have been fighting for a homegrown bill since they fucking legalized it. So I can go to jail for growing a natural plant that's legal for me to go into a store and buy, like tomatoes. But if I go plant it in my yard next to my tomatoes, I could go to jail. Now they're not enforcing, from what I hear, other than big crops, of course, but every time we bring a bill before our House of Representatives here in Washington, it gets fucking shot down by big weed. So big weed is the newest rising industry that we're going to be taking on.
By the way, Fred Edwards said some stuff that said cannabinoid inhibits SARS-CoV-2 replication and promotes the host of innate immune response. Yeah, I don't think we could read that on this particular show right now because any other forms of treatment or prevention are not really allowed to talk to. Jen Psaki says she's going to take us down if we do that. But thank you, Fred Edward. There was also a study at the University of Illinois, I believe, or the University of Chicago that said that smoking marijuana would help with symptoms of COVID-19. So, that's that's not me. That's
the science is
not
out there. I am not making any medical claims on this show. I am advocating follow the laws in your area.
Exactly.
If it's legal and you're 21, of course, don't ever operate a motor vehicle or, no, just follow
Stay away
the rules,
from Twinkies.
laws. Yeah, exactly.
Stay away from
Stay away
Doritos.
from your fridge. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. Once not a doctor here, but those are the things you want to stay away from,
Exactly. So big pharma is the media. The media funds your fears, and your fears fund your disease, and your disease funds pharma.
But let's go trust big pharma. Yay.
Yeah. Trust big pharma. I have questions. That's all. I have questions. That's
so what do you got up over here? This looks interesting.
Oh, I launched us a website or a Gmail last week. You got fire alarmed out, but yeah. So if you want to contact us with your story or a story topic, to helenbackoutreach@gmail.com.
Well, listen, let me tell you, last week's show, there was a little controversy from people I know about Kratom in Florida that actually, some people do some really good work and help with addicts. They really haven't bought into the whole Kratom movement yet. So
a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people think that it's not strong enough. It doesn't help them enough. Like I said,
scientists. What about scientists getting a hold of this stuff? Those same types of videos that you showed with the THC and the CBD, what they do with the cannabinoids and what they do to the receptors in your body. Do we have tests like that about Kratom yet, or is it still not there yet?
No, we do. We do have some, but it's not to the level of cannabis. I mean, look, we just fucking got them to start studying cannabis. And how long of a fight did that take us? I mean, they didn't start looking for this shit till the 90s. So we're at the very beginning stages with Kratom. I mean, there is some universities that are doing studies on it. I know University of Florida has done like a 2-year study on it. The science that I have seen looks really good. And the Oxford studies out of the UK are, incomplete at best is the way I look at them. But we need more study. I'm not a scientist. I don't know the science behind it, but I know that it changed my life. It took me from wanting to commit suicide and die to a functioning human being. That's all I know. That's my only claim.
And we have some friends of ours, common friends, that swear by it. So yes, I like this here. Cannabis and Oz, the glue holding the shit show together.
It is.
Is that what's going on behind the scenes, Oz, with your overalls? That ain't a piece of field in your mouth. That's a piece of, you know what? Chewing on the stems of some THC. We hear you there. He's hiding back there, ladies and gentlemen. We know what he's doing over there.
Yeah. So I got a really special treat for us tonight. Steve Cutler live. I reached out to him today. I said, hey, I know you did a cover of Smoke Two Joints. I want to close the show with it, but how do I get it? He goes, oh, I'll cut you one real fast. And he cut it and he dedicated it to everyone who's been to Hell and Back. Steve, I apologize for such short notice. I won't do it again. I promise I'll give you a warning next time.
Special thanks out, by the way, to Fred Edward, Tom, Roar Media, Hunter. I would say Roar Media, of course, Roar Media. James Evans, thank you so much for the Super Ray. William M. It really does help us out when we get out there. And I think that's everybody else today. Riley Rage was in the early, and so was Anthony Scannell. Hopefully they're still hanging on, having a good time. And of course, Fred Edwin jumped in a little bit late. Thank you so much, Fred. Who do you guys got on the YouTubes? Anybody want to say hi over there?
The YouTubes, we got Lucky Burrito, Jilly Love, Gamer, hey Barbara, Osama, Lucky Burrito. Steve, thank you so much for doing this for us. I'm so excited for it. Who else is over here?
Barbara Bartleson. What a
I
great
love Barbara. Yeah.
What a great name.
I'm hoping to kick it with some of our fam on Saturday at the Medicare for All March in Seattle.
What's
If not,
going
hang
on?
out with the fam in LA.
I don't know who I'm going to see there. It's kind of funny. I know I'm going to see some people who like we've moved in different directions politically.
I know.
So I'm curious how they're you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a nice, chummy guy. There's a lot of people I love and hug when I see them, but I just don't see them anymore. And I know they're not watching the show. And I know they were probably upset about some of my rhetoric and, you know, how hard I was on the squad and Bernie. They still have issues with that. And, you know, I mean, it is a shame because a lot of those people that I know and I see them, and I always say it all the time, they do so much great, compassionate work in the streets. They feed people. They get people showers, the showers of hope. I mean, I'm talking about the people who work there. Look at that. Oh, look at it's up there. All this stuff going on. You know, I mean, they do so much work and stuff. But when it comes to the politics, the electoral politics, we just
I know they just
strongly
all
disagree.
lie.
And I think they have to understand power. You know, the power mechanism. They don't understand that. That's why they'll still have like, you know, you'll see like local bought out establishment lackeys like Jimmy Gomez hanging with these people and taking pictures and stuff. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, guys, come on. I love you guys, but don't let these people get back in there and, you know, steal the narrative and co-opt the movement that you've been pushing. It's very important, you know?
All we can do is bring the facts, bring the receipts, and try to wake them up, Pasta. And that's what you guys do. And that's why we will always road dog with Combo Couch.
What's going on behind us there, Oz? Wait, you might have to take me off the screen real quick so people can see my handsome mug over there. You see this? Oh,
yeah, you guys
was
are,
that picture.
Yeah, you guys are speaking on Saturday, right?
Yeah. I'll be kind of like, they're doing speeches. We'll be doing speeches by the CNN building. And there's 5 speakers over there, including myself, would be 6, maybe 5 or 6. But I'm going to be like doing mini speeches, supposedly, unless they change the format. You never know, they can do that. But I'll be kind of like, you know, me with a megaphone doing the MC and introducing people and whatnot. So I have like little mini speeches, which I prepare for, like, and I kind of keep them in the area of the person that's coming up.
Yeah, you do.
Kind of intertwine it in a way to introduce those people. So hopefully I'll be able to do that this weekend and whatnot and stuff. But, you know, we have to have a lot of discussions about this topic. You guys have taught me about, you know, when it comes to Medicare for all, you know, and, you know, the public option and my mind over there. And, you know, but now I think after the whole experience we had last year with COVID and big pharma and everything, what's going on, we have to have bigger conversations of what type of healthcare we want. And with doing this show today, I can tell you this much. Why shouldn't marijuana be part of your Medicare? Why shouldn't, if we're going to have Medicare for all, why wouldn't marijuana be used as far as a form of treatment? And you know they're going to try to stop that.
We didn't touch on that. We didn't really touch on that, but the VA is actually starting to give veterans with PTSD marijuana prescriptions because they know it's the only thing that helps and works. And I've actually met some of the leaders in that movement. 22 Vets a Day really started the push for getting legal marijuana to these guys. And I would love to bring them on. There's so many great things we can do with this show, but it's such a massive topic. I feel like we forgot so many things tonight and with Kratom last week. And, you know, I feel like we need to do like 3-4 shows on each thing.
Yeah. We'll circle back to it, you know, and we'll talk more and stuff. So that's all I got. You got anything else before we have, what's his name? Steve Cutler Live will play us out.
Hey, you guys can tune in tomorrow night over on the Rockfin. Amber and I are going to be hanging out in her studio. That ought to be fun, doing a Brave New Future. So come get your mind blown.
Yeah, I think we might have a special guest tomorrow. So pay attention to the Combo Couch. You know, we'll start going early and, you know, we'll be ready for Saturday then too as well. And we'll be on the ground Saturday. So we'll figure out what's what. And we're going to have a great weekend, a great time, a great way to get some, you know, activism out there in the streets. And, you know, the whole thing at the end of the day is I think a lot of the majority of the people out there, they don't want to see, they're very compassionate people, and they don't want to see people dying in the streets because of a lack of health care. They don't want to see people homeless ending up because they can't get the proper mental health care. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to see a person lose their house because they can't afford their medical bills. They don't want to see a mom choose between buying insulin for her son or putting food on the table. They don't want to see that. We all don't want to see that. And with so much money that is allocated to war, to other bullshit, we can cut that money in half and bring it on home and use it here. I mean, if you're an MMT person, money that's allocated, right? You know what I'm saying? The money that's allocated we should have money allocated for healthcare. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a big conversation of what that healthcare can be and what it's going to look like. That's okay. And we can have those conversations. But the dying has to stop. It has to stop putting people on the streets. People have to stop suffering. And enough is enough. And our overlords, our tech freaking bosses, they need to stop. They need to stop supporting big pharma and all these companies that don't want to see us get Medicare for all. And they also don't want us to see us get legal marijuana, medical marijuana too as well. We saw the dogs like Hearst and all these other jerk-offs and what they're doing, DuPont. Come on, it's the same shit's going on to this day. It's 2021. Enough is enough. It's time to stop. There goes Steve Cutler live.
Smoke 2 joints in the morning, smoke 2 joints at night, smoke 2 joints in the afternoon, makes me feel alright. Smoke 2 joints in time of peace, 2 in time of war. Smoke 2 joints before I smoke 2 joints, then I smoke 2 more. Smoke cigarettes till the day she died. Pop out some good sense, I mean. Easy, you ever get caught slipping? Hell no. Mama, she once told me, boy, you'll be a hard-working man. And Papa, he once told me, son, you do the best you can. But then one day, I met a man who came to me and said, hey, hard work good and hard work fine, but first take care of head. It's medicine, you know, take care of yourself. Till the day she died, have a big puff of some good sense of me. Yeah. Well, I smoke 2 joints in the morning, smoke 2 joints at night, smoke 2 joints in the afternoon, makes me feel alright. Smoke 2 joints in time of peace and 2 in time of war. I smoke 2 joints before I smoke 2 joints, honey, and then I smoke 2 more.